the Secretary of the Navy. He's sort of the top guy. And unlike many military organizations around the planet, everybody liked Forrestal. All of the people did. He was really a beautiful guy, and he knew what he was talking about. But his people were essentially like a short name, a name that was abbreviated. And so it had quite a few different titles to it. That group were essentially the apex of the alumni. So at Douglas, we had the situation where putting together packages on different areas that we were working on in the think tank. Now, other people in the tank were aware of who Forrestal was, and they were aware that we should not be using his group's name. But essentially, every document that we came up with inside that secret think tank, how will this be accepted by that group? Are we deviating from their agenda? What is their agenda? Who are all of these people? Is the Bilderberg involved in this? Are other organizations, secret organizations, are they involved in this? We then structured our presentations to them when he came out to assume Forrestal was the #1 person in the country who ran the proper organization, the real organization to handle technically the extraterrestrial. We have now what essentially is the U.S. Navy Space Systems, which is not an organization, but it's inside of the secret think tank at Douglas. That operation was controlling everything in the country, and the President of the United States was not included. Top military people, congressmen, were not included. So here we are giving away the store to the people that are causing the problem. And I think this is hard for us to accept, but this is what was going on. We didn't know it, but that's what it appeared to be. In documents that I put together and several of the others that were submitted back to the Navy, I would make comments on essentially who does this information go to. This was a continuous problem in the secret think tank. Dr. Klemperer is a real nice guy, smart, brilliant, and you can kid with him. Okay, he's my boss. Klemperer was convinced that there were two different groups. There was the standard organizations, the Navy's levels of information, and then you got this other group up on top. And we know that the Admiral was heading that group up on top. He was the head of it. So we assumed after he was assassinated that that was then true, because he then was talking too much. These are the complexities of the program where we're off by ourselves, not being influenced by anybody. We're coming up with what we think we're going to have to do to solve an unbelievable problem. And when you don't know who your boss is, you do the best you can.
What you're seeing here is very corroborating information with what so many others have been telling us over time about this mystery of how do they keep this stuff secret. People say, oh, the government can't keep a secret. They can't even find a file in a file cabinet. How could they keep these things secret? Well, Corey, when we're hearing about the guy who ultimately becomes the Secretary of Defense and was the first Secretary of Defense in America, Forrestal, and even they don't know who he's really working for. They don't know, yeah, he's the head of the Navy, he becomes the Secretary of Defense, but he mentioned this thing he called the alumni, and when I hear that, I'm thinking Illuminati.
That's a name that's been used for them before in the military.
You're saying alumni? They actually use that word?
Mm-hmm.
And that actually means Illuminati.
Right. That was their name for it.
He also kind of dances around a code name for this group, but he doesn't say what it is. It appears to be MJ12. Would you agree with that? That that's what he was talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever been in a situation where the people that you're working with don't know who they're reporting to or what their agenda really is?
That's the basic tool they use to keep people oblivious to what's going on. And everything is highly compartmentalized. Even on the vessel I was on, everything was compartmentalized.
Could you give me an example?
Well, there was a large area that was a bay that we would use for transportation, and everything was modular. So you would the bay would be this open, you push it all the way open, and then start building out laboratories or whatever else needed to be in there. And we would not, if I was working with a certain group of scientists, we would not have any idea what just on the other side of the wall, going, like right next to each other.
In the same research vessel?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, and they do things like they'll give a special access program the same name as a regular military program that's secret, so that if one of the program's names is thrown out there, they can say, oh, look, it's tied to this. This is a secret program, but it's not what you think it is.
He was tossing out some alphanumeric codes that were like alternative titles for this group. Is that commonly done? Is that kind of what you're talking about now?
Yeah. You give a group several different names, so it causes confusion if people start to talk about them. They'll be like, who? Well, I knew a group named this, and it just adds to the confusion.
This compartmentalization that we're speaking of, do some of the people in some of these space program factions not even know that there are other factions?
Absolutely. Hardly any of them know about other factions. They will often know a little bit about less technological factions below them. And a lot of them have come up through those. But they are not privy. If they see another craft, they're told that it's a concept craft for their program, not to speak about it to anyone.
Tompkins also described that this guy who supposedly is answering to this shadowy MJ12 group ended up getting murdered. Now, that suggests that there is something nefarious going on. We know the term MJ12 didn't even come into the public lexicon until the 1980s, thanks to William Moore, Stanton Friedman, who got this roll of 35mm film that had documents on it that up until then had never been available in public domain. Yet Tompkins clearly seems to have known about MJ12, even though he didn't want to say the name on camera. Why do you think people are so afraid of these guys, and what do you think happened to Forrestal?
Well, Forrestal, it was reported in the smart glass pads, was one of the people that had been eliminated.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It said that in there?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know who the other people are. A lot of their names, I would have no base of reference. But yeah, they have a list of who was taken out in the name of national security or whatever.
And do they use that as an incentive for people to keep their mouth shut?
Yes. Because everyone in the programs knows what happened, even though the general public is given a cover story.
So the implication is that no matter how highfalutin you think you are, or how important you are, they'll snuff you like a candle the minute you step out of line.
Yep. Presidents, senators, it does not matter.
Well, that's a group you don't want to mess with. In the next clip here, we're going to be talking about Nordic secretaries and their role in helping to shape America's development of their own secret space program.